with things working pretty nicely on the wheels, we'll jump in and do the steering. So let me just get rid of the main body of the car so that we don't see it. So I'm just going to double click the geo group, just right click on the viewport and just hide selection. And I'm going to come in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this point that we have. So I'm just going to hit Control V, make it a copy, and I'm going to leave it as 0.07, and I'm just going to hit OK. I can rename this later on. And let's change the size of this though. So I'm going to knock this down to maybe 15 and take out the cross. And let's do the same on the other side as well. So duplicate the point helper, Control V, just copy that. 0.008 is fine. Change that down to 15 on the size and just get rid of that cross. And with one of these selected, just go to Animation Constraints, and I'll do an orientation constraint, and I'm going to do this to the steering control that we have, and just leave it as is. And the same for this guy as well. So let's come across, grab him, Animation Constraints, Orientation Constraint, and click the steering. And then when we rotate the steering controller, you can see those cubes, or at least one of the cubes, moving. And if I move to the other side, the other one should be doing the same. Okay, that's really cool. That's what I'm after for this to start, for us to get some steering in here. So let's take a look at the hierarchy of where this guy is parented to, this 0.001. Let's just do page up to see who its parent is. And you can see its parent is this rotation controller, which is fine. And if we do another page up just to go up the hierarchy once more, the down arrow is the next in line for that, which is fine. And if we do one more on the page up, you can see that it comes down to this front wheel. And again, page up one more time. So I'm just looking through the hierarchy here, pretty simple. It goes to the axle control. Now the axle control, we don't want to be affected by the steering, because if we did and we rotate from here, you can see the wheels are going to go inside of the car. We actually want this guy, the one just down in the hierarchy, to be the actual thing that's getting the rotation. So instead of having this parented directly to the axle control, let's just parent this guy by using the select and link tool to that smaller point helper that is actually getting control by the steering. So let's do that now. Let's just select and link that. And you can see that we've got a link. It would create a dependency loop. Okay, so let's take a look where this smaller point controller that's getting its information from, where it is in the actual hierarchy. So let's look at the schematic view, and let's just zoom out so we can see him, and back down. And you can see that the 0.008 is actually, it's connected to that wheel rotation front L control. So if we select that and find where it is, it's actually, it's parented into this guy, this controller that's rotating everything. So let's remove where it is in the hierarchy just by going on link selection. This will, back in our schematic view, so we'll take the point way out into space so that it's not connected to anything. That's perfect. That's what we need right now. So let's just minimize that schematic view, and let's try that select and link from this guy again, this bottom controller, up to that smaller point. Perfect. We didn't get a dependency loop this time. So let's rotate the steering, and you can see that wheel's coming along now. That's exactly what we need. So the last thing for us to do on this side is just use that select and link tool and link that up to the axle. So now we have the control of, we can go to the drift, get this to drift, and you'll see that this left wheel we haven't done yet. It's not behaving correctly, but when we rotate this guy, you can see it sticking forward. So that's what we want. We want to happen for both of the front wheels. And if we move down, let's take a look at the axle. Again, that wheel's still pointing forward. This one's not really doing what it's needing to just yet. And you can see that it's also sticking flat, which is really cool. And we should still have, all of our control over this, so we can rotate it, we can move it, do whatever we need to. But when we actually rotate the steering again it's gonna change. Unfortunately, if this point doesn't come along and you've moved the wheel off, you can see that it's actually getting its rotation from this pivot point. So there's gonna be an offset, which is fine because generally you wouldn't move the wheel off like that anyway. So let's do the same to the other side. So if we try that select and link again without changing the hierarchy, let's go to select and link and we put it back up to that smaller one. We get this link dependency loop. So let's grab the point, unlink the selection, then do select and link from this bottom controller up to the smaller point, and then the point to the axle. And now when we rotate the steering, those wheels are perfect. They're exactly what we need them to be. So if I just right click in the viewport and unhide all again, we can see those wheels back in there with the car now, and if I start rotating, that looks as if it should, which is fine. You know, that's what we're trying to get from this. And if we just quickly grab this drift control, you can see how those, you know, they're always pointing to wherever the arrow is, so we can move the arrow now as well. And it looks great. It looks exactly like what we expect it to be, so for both for the drifting and for the steering now.